La 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 la. La 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 dee 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 doo 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 doo. And yes, today I am super excited because look what my lovely girlfriend has got me. It is the final of the UFO Dinky Toys range, Ed Straker's car. Oops, upside down, but there, you can see I'm not lying. Dinky Toys Ed Straker's car. Good old English die-cast craftsmanship. I don't care to think how much he spent on that because I've never seen one of these in the wild before, not in an antique shop or just in a flea market. Not that I ever expected to be that lucky. But she just turned up one day knowing I was a fan and presented me with this and refused to tell me how much it cost, which is perhaps as well, and I am so thrilled. And it's a lovely example too. It's got some paint flecks, but I don't really think I'm going to strip this one and repaint it because there's so much of the original paint still there and it looks lovely and shiny. The only thing that I really want to do is I want to get inside it because it's meant to have one of those old style friction drives where I think they have a little flywheel, so if you pushed it, it would get momentum and keep going for a while. But as you can hear, it just makes a bit of a sad little squeak when it moves, so I think its friction drive is well and truly busted. So I'll carefully open it up and see if there's anything I can do about that. Other than that, just cleaning, I think. It would have been nice to put some figures in the front seats, but it's a bit of an awkward scale. The figures I used for the SHADO mobile just aren't big enough for this. They look like teeny tiny little children possibly in those seats, and yeah, we can't have children driving a SHADO car. There's only one episode where we see a child in the seat of one of these. That's Ed Straker's son in A Question of Priorities, and what happens from there on is best not thought about. Very, very, very grim episode. Good episode, very grim episode. But that was the series. You know, that's one of the things we loved about it. It was dark as well as fun in that peculiarly idiosyncratic 70s way. Now, a few little factoids about this car. It was one of the vehicles in the show that was not just model. It was a full-size prop built on a Ford Zephyr Zodiac. And the reason they could afford such a lavish, expensive prop was because it wasn't made for UFO. It was made for Jerry Anderson film. This one here, good old Wikipedia. Journey to the Far Side of the Sun, also known by its original title Doppelganger. 1969 British science fiction film. Written by Jerry and Sylvia Anderson. So it was very much a precursor to UFO. It had quite a few props that made it into the show, including famously the spacesuits and these cars. Paul Foster's lovely lilac car, which sadly there isn't a Dinky toy of, was also a refugee from Journey to the Far Side of the Sun. And they, like it, they have these gull-wing doors that may have looked really futuristic back in 1970, or 1969, but yeah. They did turn up in the 80s, of course, famously on the DeLorean, which whilst it's an iconic 1980s car, you couldn't exactly say it was typical of the decade. Still, you know, there's always going to be a discrepancy between what it would be nice if the future looked like and what it actually ended up looking like. And these are a luxury car anyway. You don't exactly see most of the cars in the series looking like this. Most of them just look like standard British road cars, because that's what they are. The gull wing doors on this, sadly not featured on this model. Of course, like the Enterprise doors in Star Trek, the electronic Enterprise doors weren't electronic at all. They were operated by stagehands who had to be kept out of sight. So if you ever see Ed Straker's car doors seeming to open by themselves, there's some poor thankless bugger off to the side of the screen somewhere doing that. Many other factoids about this car that I can think of. In this book here, it is known as the Shadow Executive. Whether that's a name from the series Bible or not, I couldn't say. I don't know how much this book actually refers to any production notes or anything like that. But it seems a good name for it because we only see this car being driven by important people like Straker or other high-ranking SHADO members. Uh, like Paul's car. Paul's car is a bit more demotic. We see that being driven by a fair few people, including people lower down the chain, including, I believe, Regan in The Cat with 10 Lives has one of Paul's has a lilac car similar to Paul's. Well, the same car. But this car is mostly associated with Ed Straker, and rightly so. It's part of the character. Also, they were an absolute bugger to drive, according to Derek Meddings himself, who designed them. The wheel was beautifully stylish on the inside, but hideously impractical. Changing gears was a pain. They were not practical cars, but they looked the part. Sadly, it didn't come to a good end because it was found several years later by someone looking to make a replica, and it was seen in this awful condition, unfortunately. But at least they've started making the replica. I don't think this one's been restored, though, sadly, which is a real pity. Somebody is at least reconstructing it so it won't be lost to posterity. Thankfully, this one I think needs a lot less restoration, as I said, just cleaning and seeing if I can get that friction motor running again. So, it'll be a brief hiatus while I see what I can do. Ta-ta for now.